Well, I don't know if I'm to say this, but I'd like to welcome all these 1986 graduates back to MHS, and 1984 graduates, and a high school senior, and 2 guidance counselors.
Wait, no.
I didn't look the part, but I graduated.
You talk.
No, I said she's going to
Well, what do I know? Because I've been a 9th grade teacher for 30 years, and I can't get to be in the 10th grade. Well, welcome back.
Hi.
Am I supposed to say something to every one of you?
Sure.
I'll ask one question, and from there you can take it. Tell me, do you think Mamaroneck High School prepared you well for college, or do you think that there was a great deficiency with regard to your preparation when you got into your classes at your respective schools?
Honestly.
Tell the truth. Shame the devil.
I think that they prepared us as far as they could. I mean, it's a shock because we just got back from finals, most of us, and final weeks are a shock. Since Thanksgiving for 3 weeks, it's been work, but you don't do that in high school, and I don't expect people to do that in high school. But as far as a lot of things go, English, it prepared me, especially my course in speech making that I took. It's true. And French prepared me. I was prepared academically for my courses. I wasn't prepared for the amount of work, and it's kind of like a sudden shock, and then you kind of just roll into it.
Yeah, well, like you said, high school can't prepare you for living there and being living school every day, all day.
Yeah.
I think Mamaroneck did a good job because it's not an easy school as far as high schools go in general. I came here from another high school and found it really difficult compared to my other high school, which was supposed to have been hard.
I think it is deficient in one area, and that is, in some ways, the writing. I found it when I was a freshman, and suddenly I was hit with 15-page papers, multiple 15-page papers, and I had never written a 15-page paper before, and the longest paper I'd ever written was a 10-page paper that I did once when I was a senior, the second half of my senior year. It was sort of a shock, and I think that is where it's to do more long papers more often would be of great benefit, even though it might seem painful at the time. It might be of great benefit in the long run when you go to school.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, just writing. I just finished our English course is mainly just writing essays on anything. She would just write an essay using metaphors or write any kind of topic, and we didn't do enough writing for the sake of writing. We did a little bit too much, well, this is a paper about this book, or this is a research paper, and sometimes you just need to work on the writing by itself before you work on the other stuff, and also just the grammar preparation. I mean, I never knew what a logical fallacy was until I went to college and learned it.
I still don't know.
I don't know what it means now.
Also, I think the form of research papers, when I got to school, I was doing all my research papers wrong. And they had a different format, and I think the format we learned is not as, it's too general. They want more. They want, everything has to be detailed.
Yeah, but you have to remember that that's college and this is high school. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't prepare us for writing. I think that probably would have been a good idea. I wasn't here for 4 years, so I didn't really see the whole deal. But they probably should have done more writing. But they can't. I think that college kind of takes you a step further than high school does, and therefore to make you be more general and more specific about things. That it's okay if they don't make it totally like college, but there probably should be more writing.
Because the one thing, every college is going to teach you how to write. That's the first thing. When I get to Cornell, I have to take writing seminar, and you have to take it in something that it's a little different than just a freshman English course, because it's not like, for instance, reading something and then writing an expository paper. It's concentrated on one thing. I could take expository writing on American history, and all I'll do is read things from American history and write on that, and it's a writing seminar. It's not based on the reading. They want your writing to improve so much.
But when I was in 9th grade, I took a class with Don here. It was the African Asian class, and the great thing about it is we had to write an essay every week. It wasn't that we had to write a long essay, but we had to write an essay every week. And that, just the fact that you had to write something on a weekly basis, and you didn't have to put something off. If you have a paper and it's due 4 weeks from now, you're going to leave it till the week before, or you're going to leave it to the very end. If you're forced to write on a weekly basis, your writing skills will improve even if you don't know it. And in college, you're forced to do things on a weekly basis. So you get, not only will writing on a weekly basis help your writing skills, but it will help you cope with the homework and the amount of work that you have to do at college too.
As a communications major, all my classes are like a paper a week at least. So I was writing 3-4 papers every single week. And they weren't necessarily big, in-depth research papers, but just, you're right, like as much as you write, you know, you'll learn more. The only thing is, papers that used to be like definite A's in high school, like I'd write this paper, this is an A, or C pluses, C's in college. And it's so, it really does.
I went to Wesleyan where just about everybody there gets like, in high school got like really good grades, all B's and A's and that kind of thing. And my first math test, I got 74, and I was like, I never got 74 before. This isn't supposed to happen. It's against the rules. So it's really, you kind of, all you seniors, be prepared to suddenly, if those of you who thought that everything was that easy, it's not.
Well, the other thing is you get there, and I mean, I go to Columbia, and I mean, the people there the people there are known for like they had to work hard to get in. It's not easy, and so you come and you expect like all these incredibly intelligent human beings, and you're going to be like this little person who doesn't know anything. But you get there, and an orientation week, you're like, oh, these are all normal people. Nobody's that great. But then you realize, just as like not at the beginning of the semester, but as the work gets harder, people are putting in the time. Yeah. And I mean, especially finals week, people will be working 8 hours a day on papers and studying, and you realize that's why they're there, because they're not like such special people, but they're just putting in the time for studying. And
what kind of time would you say on the average do you put in on a typical day?
It's twice as much. Twice as much. If you spend an hour in class, you're going to spend at least 2 hours doing the homework in that class.
Well, that depends on
it depends on the way that I found out, because like if I get something to read, I mean, it takes me a while to read it. The reading is the hardest thing, because you can't let it pile up, because the second that you don't do one reading, you go to the next class and they assign another 150 pages of reading. Instead of having 150 pages, you have 300 pages of reading.
Last weekend I took the whole semester of history in one weekend for my final on Monday, and looking at 3 textbooks and knowing that I had to read all 3 by the time the weekend was over.
You know what I find is interesting and helpful sometimes when you think that some of this may be shown to seniors or juniors in high school, is if you were to run through, and every one of you will be a little different, but if you were to run through just somewhat of a typical day for you, because the high school kid doesn't really understand, first of all, what a credit hour is, or if you're going in, you know, what is that?
I don't understand.
For high school, everything's on a schedule. In college, you have to do everything on your own. Everything's totally on your own.
Take a typical, for example, on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday basis, I imagine that most of you have classes. Some possibly not. That's
Friday.
But your Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday probably are going to be somewhat different. How does it work, for example, Laurie?
Well, if you take, I took this semester, I took a foreign language that I'd never taken before, French. And that, if you're taking a language, it requires usually three days a week.
5.
And plus, that's not including, it depends on where you go, first of all. It also depends on how much time is required in a language lab. Because you'll be in class 3 days a week. My classes were an hour and a half each. And it was not a large class. There were about 28 people in the class, and we would sit in a big circle, and it was nothing like a high school French class at all. It wasn't like, I can't say high school French class, high school Spanish class, where the teacher would go to the board and say, this is a direct object, and this is what you do with it, and this is where you put it. Because the way that they taught, they don't do it in all schools, the way that they taught French in my school is called the silent method of teaching French, which means that the teacher does not speak a word of English. She does not speak a word,
From the first day.
period. From the first day, it is either in French or it is not at all.
Is this the introductory level?
This is introductory
assuming
level.
you've never had this language
I've never
before.
taken French. We sat there in the class first day and went, as she rambled on in French, and you would be amazed when you don't hear English spoken how much you pick up really quickly. And she will not pronounce a word for you. You pronounce it, and she'll go. It's the most bizarre thing, like by where you should be pronouncing it, if it's in your nose, if it's in your throat, where, you know, and you suddenly pick up the French, and you pick up the grammatical structures just by speaking, and then by writing them, and you don't have a large vocabulary to work with.
Liz,
But
how did you find
difficult.
it at BU? Is that right?
What, with classes?
With regard to your foreign language? Because you said-
I'm not taking it anymore, but
Melissa, you said you were
Yeah, I take it.
you're
5
5 hours a week.
I take
and-
it once every day. And I'm beginning level French. I took Spanish also. I was in Laurie's class. But we were supposed to be using that method, but my teacher was a little bit of a softie, and so he would speak. We had a 5-minute question period at the end, and he would correct pronunciation. But it was just every week we relied very heavily on the book, which was a lot. But every direction was in French. Oh, we did.
We had a French dictionary and
It moved
a verb
incredibly
book.
quickly. We did a year's worth of work in a semester.
Oh, no,
and we had a quiz every week, and that was the best thing because I just took my final yesterday, and if I hadn't had a quiz every week, you just would have been totally overwhelmed by the amount of work.
Yeah, I had a
semester-
homework assignment every class I could expect
Yeah,
to come
same
in.
with us.
And it would always be a writing assignment. It wasn't like something like study your verbs. It would be write a paragraph. I mean, and for French 1 to say, write a paragraph describing this picture, some people would say, my God, how can you do something like that? But you pick it up a lot more quickly.
I'm in the advanced level French class. I'm in 9th semester French. And I've already fulfilled my requirement. I had 3-year requirement in my school. You have 3-year language requirement. And I've already passed
3
that.
years or 3 semesters?
3 years. And well, it's because most people are international affairs, international politics. I'm international economics.
Hally, how much did you come in with in as preparation?
I had 5 years.
5 years here. So you were in the AP course in our school?
I was in AP, and I also spent a lot of time in France, so I had some extra. I think my oral got me in, and it's really different. But the course I'm taking is business French. I can do my income tax in French now. I know all sorts of
English.
I know. We did French income tax returns. But it's really different because French here was always. It wasn't easy, but it was always something I really didn't have to work at because I had the background from France, and I had the language. I could speak pretty well, and I had a lot of French friends. And you get up there, and the whole shock is half the people in my class are seniors, and they've gone through the school, and they learn French differently. And then there are a whole bunch of other kids that learned French in their high school, and they all learn differently, and we're all at different levels of oral. And our grammar is all a little confused, and it's really weird the way they make you write and do. I wrote business reports on commodity flows between America and France because they want to see how well you can write. And every time, and taking a language, an advanced level language, if you've taken 5 years here and get into an advanced course, it's like taking English, an English course of that level. And you have to be prepared that you really want to do that.
Well, supposedly if you're taking an AP language here, that's what it's supposed to be like.
But most kids only get into 3rd or 4th semester.
Right, but if you did you take French language or literature?
Language.
You took language because I took Spanish literature, AP, which is just like an English course because you're assigned authors and books to read and you're writing papers just like in English. You're analyzing the books of a foreign language, which can get really confusing, but it helps you a lot.
Can I ask a question, sort of off the subject, but if the free time you have, because I know in school you might have 2 courses a day, and then you have your whole day. Usually you work. How is that?
No.
College makes you learn discipline.
You see, learning discipline was definitely a hard thing for me.
Yeah.
I spent the majority of my time in the school. Wow! Look at the new people.
All right.
I spent a lot of my time in the coffee house at school, and I would just kind of sit there with my friends and drink coffee and talk and not do much of anything. Or I would just hang around or do theater or something. I didn't do a lot of work. I even did my work in the coffee house. Finding time and disciplining yourself to do your work when you're supposed to be doing it and make sure it all gets done. I still write papers the night before they do.
Everybody does.
The morning of. The night before, like starting at like 11 o'clock.
Until the morning.
But see, the scary part is that when you do a paper starting 11 o'clock the night before, you hand it in the next morning at 9, you get it back 2 days later and you got a B on it or something, you start to doubt the college learning experience. You did that little bit of work.
I was did it in high school, so I don't see why you should change now in college.
Because it makes you feel guilty. Like I just got so really. Really, it makes you feel guilty for having free time. Because what we do in our dorm, we happen to have the best TV with the best reception in our room. So of course our room has become the TV room. So we'll have 40 guys on our floor watching Monday Night Football every Monday night, and you finally say, who needs to study? But then after you've watched all the Christmas specials, we saw The Grinch on Wednesday night and all that. After that, you say, oh God, during that hour that I was watching TV, I should have been studying. Or when you pick up a magazine to read, you say, God, when I'm reading this magazine, I should be reading that English book, and you feel guilty for doing anything for yourself.
It's such a matter, it really is, it's such a matter of personal. If you take like my room, I have 2 roommates. I have one roommate who does everything in excess. She'll go out and she'll party in excess, and then she'll come back and she'll work for 48 hours straight. And she gets sick all the time, obviously. My other roommate doesn't work at all, and she gets D's. And she's getting upset about it. She can't. She can't. No, it drives me nuts because I can't study in my room because she's always watching TV. That's the thing. She watches TV all the time.
I don't have a TV.
I think everybody takes their studying too seriously. Personally, I mean. When I was in high school, when I was in high school, I was the biggest grade grubber there was. But when I got here, I realized that my grades in the long term didn't mean anything in what I was interested in, and so I see a lot of my friends sit around and study 8 hours and a day and nonstop studying, and I realize that they're foolish. They don't need to be studying. Their grades are not that important. The important thing is that you're learning the material. Yeah. Whether you're getting good grades or not is unimportant. And I know, like, I just took finals, a couple weeks ago, and actually, 2 weeks ago, and. All my friends are sitting around 8 hours a day, and I said, I'm going to sleep early, I'm going to be nice and refreshed for the final, and I haven't done all the studying I'd like to, but so what? At least I'll go in with a good mind. And I think that in general, what I'm hearing here is that everybody's obsessed about, you're saying, well, how's the free time fit in with the work time? And for me, I mean, I have a lot of free time. It's not geared towards work, though, for class. It's geared towards other activities that I'm part of. And that's how I spend most of my day, not in class, not doing my work, but doing extracurriculars, if that's what you want to call it, related to my interests. And I think that's the important thing, that if you are I can only give you my own example. I'm a film major. I spend, 75% of my day working at the activities with the student groups that I belong to related to film or television or whatever. And I think that the grades, I hate to say don't study, but the grades.
I think each school is school.
Because my school, it's disgusting.
At Columbia, everybody's towards law school.
It's the same. At my school, everybody is going to graduate school, which means that
if you go to grad school, yes, obviously.
Everybody, and everybody knows that, and they're totally obsessed with grades. It's disgusting at times. You can go and feel. When I visited the school, when I visited Cornell, I stepped out of the car and I said, I hate it here. My mom said, why? And I said, because I can feel the pressure. And you walk around sometimes, like when it gets towards finals week, like I was up there a couple weekends ago, and people just don't look happy a lot of the time. And then you get to the point that, there's a couple suicides a year, and that's when you start to say, well, how important are your grades? But to everybody up there, that's what they're there for, and it's really scary at times to see people do things like that.
I'm not denying that. I'm saying I'm one of the few people at my school who actually does what I do, where I don't do that much studying, and I think because I don't do as much studying, I don't worry about it as much, and because I don't worry about it, the fear and it doesn't interfere with my performance. If you study 8 hours before a test and suddenly, hey, have I studied enough? Should I study an extra hour? Studying more, and now you're all nervous and you can't get to sleep that night. You don't perform well on your exams and your papers, whatever you have to do. So without the fear going into the exams, without the anxiety that you haven't studied enough, but you're confident you've attended classes, you sort of know the material, then in some ways you perform just as well. Maybe you're not getting the 3.9 out of 4.0 average, but in the other case you're not failing.
I think it just depends on the individual, because you got your interest in film. Someone who has their interest in economics has to study economics to do well.
I agree.
You don't study 8 hours, and that's fine for you, and it's fine for me too. Because I don't study at all. But I have an outside interest also. I'm going to NYU.
Why don't we do this, Michael? Why don't you say your name, and we'll go around the room. You say your name and where do you go to school? We'll go all the way around. How's that for the camera?
My train of thought, Don.
No, you said you don't study at all, and I'll get back. I know that, and we'll get back to that.
Okay, we can't make a comment as we go around?
You can make any comments you want as we go around.
Why don't you start, Don? It's the mic right there.
Come on, Don Phillips.
I meant to make on the last subject. So
Where'd you go to school, Don?
Where'd you go to school, Don?
I went to Gettysburg College, and I graduated in You're kidding.
No, my dad went there.
I went to Gettysburg College, and I graduated in 1956. And this brings back a lot of very happy memories.
I go to I'm Hally Mahler, and I go to George Washington University. And it's a great school. It's a great school if you want to get anywhere in politics, any kind of international thing. I live 2 blocks from the White House. It's terrific.
No commercial.
No.
Oh, I'm Liz Gumbinner. I go to Boston University. Great town, major college town. Everybody there, ask Melissa. Everybody there has a different college sweatshirt, and everything's geared towards students. So after you work, there's lots to do.
Different college sweatshirt.
Weekends are fun.
I'm
Get an ID.
I'm Melissa Landau, and I go to Columbia University, and I think it says it all that it's in New York City, and it doesn't detract, it only adds, and there's a good campus life too, and it's great.
I'm Melissa Sullivan. I go to Northeastern University in Boston. It's a great school if you want to go get experience in your field because of the co-op program they have there. Everybody does it. And if you want experience and go into school at the same time, it's a great school.
My name is John Moss, and I go to Northwestern, and I don't know what to say. I guess I'm a junior. Okay, I'm a junior. And I guess I'm the only person in the Midwest here, so I'm proud of that.
I'm Andrew Ware. I went to the University of New Hampshire, and if I tell you when I graduated, I'm going to blow my 29, Pete.
I'm going to blow my 24.
1957.
Comments, no. Okay. I'm Steve Tannen. I'm a freshman at Stanford. It's in California.
Not Connecticut.
I'm Pete Williams, and I'm one of the counselors here, and I went to Xavier University, a Midwestern school out in Cincinnati. I graduated a couple of years ago.
Michael Ochs. I'm going to NYU. I'm a freshman there, music major. It's a great school.
I'm Laurie Logan. I'm going to Cornell University. I haven't been there yet, which is interesting. I stayed home this semester, but I'm heading up to upstate New York very soon, and I do know a great deal about the school. So it's not like I hear everybody whispering. So go ahead, ask me why I didn't go to school.
No, that's not the reason. That's not the reason for whispering. You see, you took a language course. You took a language course.
Yes, but I did attend school this semester. I did go to school. I went to SUNY Purchase, which provides for a very interesting contrast with my school because SUNY Purchase is probably the most laid-back school you could ever attend. And I'm going to probably the most high-pressured school that I could ever want to attend.
Jump off a bridge.
Okay. I know. Just keep the gorge on watch, you know? Go ahead.
I have a major question.
Okay. Then you can ask me a question.
What is your name?
He started this. He started this thing. My name is Seth Reichgott. I go to Wesleyan University, and I wanted to make a comment on the last thing we were talking about, and that was that it's just a matter of studying and free time and all that. It's a matter of keeping everything in perspective. Yeah. And I have this friend who studies like crazy, takes an exam, and then comes home and cries. And just like, shut up, cut it out, you know? I mean, and then I have friends that just do lots of drugs and don't do anything else. And so you get so you have to find they have to keep everything in perspective, and you have to realize what it is that's important and find a nice balance between everything.
Frequent extended study breaks.
You got a question.
What's your major question?
My major question was, you all had expectations when you went away to school, of some sort. Were they met for you, and if so, or if not, why?
Yes, Wesleyan.
Everybody's trying to scare you.
You're talking have one person at a time.
No, I went to school expecting it to be wonderful, and it was amazing. I like made the right. They talk about making the right choice of schools, and I made the right choice of schools.
It was more.
And I expected it to be harder than high school, and it is. And I expected it to be fun living by myself, basically, and it is. And it's just amazing. Go to college.
I took a gamble and applied to one school, which is NYU, and it worked out pretty well because I got in first of all.
And went.
And I went, and it's a great life at NYU. It's like living in the city. The dorm is excellent, and the food isn't bad. But you have a lot of free time, but it just depends on the individual how you use your free time. Like, someone would look at me and say I don't work at all because I don't really study for my academic classes being a music major. So my friends say you don't work at all, which isn't true because I work about 15 hours a day on my main interest, which is like John was saying. So we can afford that because we're going to be rich and famous doing film and music. But what about those people who want to be economics majors? Like they go to MIT and they have to study.
Or they want to get into law school or something
it just
like
depends. You can't make the statement that
you have to put everything in perspective. I mean, I have a friend, not even a friend, I don't think anybody knows him. He works all day. He goes to bed at 10 o'clock at night, wakes up, goes to class, works, goes to bed at 10 o'clock at night, wakes up.
Vicious stuff.
What is the point of going? I mean, that is ridiculous. Half of what you learn is not your academics, but how to deal in a, as an individual in the real world, even not the real world, but in a different place. And if you let your academics and you let your work take control of your whole life, then you're not learning everything you can from the whole experience. I mean, that's why maybe the two of us are extreme towards the other end, but on the other hand, it's still, there should be a balance somewhere that those who study too much are only hurting themselves, really.
College isn't just an extension of high school. It's like a whole experience. It's a whole another part of your life. And I realized that yesterday, actually. I had like 3 hours. No, really. Wow. I had 3 hours until I was going to get picked up. I woke up late. I woke up at 2 o'clock or something. And I knew I had to go here and go Christmas shopping and here and pick up my laundry and go to this supermarket so I can get some food and then go here and here. And I was like, I'm doing errands. That's so strange. My mother does errands.
College is a totally different aspect of life, which is pretty true because we all went to school with each other for 4 years, and we haven't seen each other for longer. Right? We haven't seen each other for 6 months, maybe more. And now we all have totally different sets of friends, and you also make friends a lot faster in college. I think
because everybody's trying. That's like part of it.
But everyone's in the same predicament. Everybody's there with no friends and leaving their friends and their boyfriends and everybody behind, and slowly one by one they start to be very, very, very close with people on the floor and start to lose their boyfriends and start to lose their friends from home.
That's the one disadvantage I feel like I'm going to have by going to school late, is that I still have all these expectations of what college life is going to be like, because even though I've gone to college, I've been commuting from home. I still get to go home and have my mom cook me dinner if I want it, or cook myself dinner, or you should. I have lost weight. That's the one thing, is that everybody else gained weight and I lost weight. But I still have the security of home, even though I'm technically in college. I'm not in high school anymore.
You're gonna miss it.
And now I'm really ready to go. I wasn't ready to go a while back, and that's why I didn't, because I could have lived off campus or something and gone to school, but I chose to stay home. And I don't regret it, but I'm still a little bit scared that when I go there, I'm going to be going through something a lot different, because when all the freshmen come in August, there's 3,000 of them that are all in the same case, like they have no friends, basically, no boyfriends, but I'm going to be going with like 200 other people, and they're like the only people that, like everybody else is established and I'm thrown into it.
What's clicking? Yeah. It's people that
that's a real rather blanket statement. Depends on where you go.
No, I've really noticed, like on a wide scale, like on a very large scale at Columbia. I only know one college, but people, although you have your friends and you always, you have a group of friends you can always fall back on, you can always go out and meet new people. And you can always, like, in the middle of the semester, I met some people who I really liked and I decided I wanted to be friends with them, and they're some of my best friends now.
I want to ask, can I ask a question? What do you get?
Don't get too personal.
Now you made me forget. Do any of you guys, have you joined fraternities, sororities?
I'm a little sister. I am. I'm a little sister at Northeast.
I hate them.
I'm a little sister. We have about 20% Greek life. It's not something that's necessary, except you see it around. A little sister at Sigma Phi Epsilon. It's great. We just had a Christmas party. I got to drink.
It's a place to go party.
Wesleyan being the incredible liberal place that it is, or something like that. They're trying to. There's this big movement now to co-educate fraternities. which is probably going to actually destroy them because they'll lose their charters, chances are.
Yeah.
It's a whole big issue. The fact is that fraternities create a lot of the party life.
Yeah.
Not that you have to be in the fraternity or even like the fraternity to want to go to their parties or be accepted there. Just that they are houses which have liquor licenses, basically.
Can I ask a question?
That's not at all.
That's a Columbia.
Let me ask a question. In your senior year, there was a program we had at the high school here which asked you to be aware of various cult activities in college. Was that an interesting? Were you prepared? Were you prepared?
They're cults. There's this place, Marsh Chapel. If you ever see a picture of BU, they show Marsh Chapel because it's the only thing that doesn't look like a 30-story high-rise. And there are people that stand in front of it, the Hare Krishnas and the Jews for Jesus, and they made up their own one. These group of guys called Go Bob or something, like some really weird name like that, and they prayed to Bob, who's this guy.
I have to warn.
It's no big deal. It's not like you're gonna get sucked into it.
It's not a problem for you.
I have to warn people in college. There's a group, CARP, they're called, and it's a front for the Moonies. And I have a friend who was almost swung in by these, and these are all, they're just kids, and they have dinners together, and it looks like a fun-loving thing. But CARP, it's called CARP, and it's the Moonies. Reverend Sun Young Moon's son runs it. Let's see. Well, it's true though, because one of my best friends was like, met this guy who was really nice, because my best friend, he used to like just hang out, in the park and like do his work there and everything. Because when you live in the city, you never go back.
Where you come from. I know a lot of my friends who come from the middle of Iowa or someplace like that. They're not in the same sort of society that we are living in New York City, etc.
They're less sophisticated.
I don't want to say they're less sophisticated. No, they're just not affected. They're just not as aware.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that
of this
people
stuff.
from Larchmont are necessarily the most
So are you
sophisticated
saying
in the
they
whole
get
world.
sucked into it?
They're just not as mean. I mean, people from. I mean, we're not mean. We're not mean. We're not mean people among ourselves. But let me tell you something. Outside of the East, New York is thought of as very assholes.
This is not my class. This is television.
And so I think exactly so that we come across as being a lot tougher, and in some ways we are. I mean, and so it depends where you're coming from. I think we're not as affected by these groups as others, because I do know people who are, not necessarily my friends, but people who I know who are sucked into some of these groups, and I just think that because of where we come from and the media that we have around here in terms of bringing out these things, I don't think we're as affected by them.
There were little signs around, little dittoed signs all around Wesleyan for a while. This girl was involved in this discussion group thing, which was run by the same people who did EST, and EST is a cult.
No, it's not.
Well, it's a matter of.
We can debate that. At any rate, yeah, that's a big debate. But I mean, and this saying, come to our discussion group and get involved, and we have weekends and and I was like, I wrote little notes on these things saying, be careful, this might be a cult. I went around campus writing all over the signs.
Was it MHS and that presentation that made you familiar with them, or did you already know?
I was familiar with them already from another thing I'd done in Philadelphia. But I mean, it occurred to me. I remember that fellow who came and talked to us. Although
he was very interesting, and also I think my synagogue ran a thing here about cults, and it's kind of been since 7th or 8th grade they've been talking about it. It's really good because it's true. A lot of my friends are from west of the Mississippi, and they really are less informed about a lot of those things that we make it a point to know about, just for the gossip going around in the closed atmosphere. And living in a city is a total different atmosphere to them to start with.
Well, he goes to school out in Lotus Land, so what is it like with regard to this issue?
It's not sunny, right?
He's very
cults,
tired.
I don't know. Cults. I've only seen evidence of one cult, and it wasn't really anything bad. It was
I haven't seen anything.
It was transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
It was yeah, there you go. There you go. And a whole bunch of kids, went, and they came back, and they're, I assume they're still going, and they pay a flat fee at the beginning. but then they go and they learn a skill, and it didn't seem that's the only evidence I've seen so far at all.
You know how the Harry's like dancing around?
You have a question, Ann?
Stanford's like a microcosm now. I mean,
No, I was just going to
do.
ask.
Okay,
no.
Peter.
One of the questions I have at this point is, all of you obviously are now at schools and you're going to be going momentarily. Seth said that he did make his right decision. A lot of juniors, and think back now, it's not that long ago, when you were trying to make your decision, which one should I even investigate? Which one should I finally go to? And obviously it could come down to, well, I only have one school, like NYU, I'm going to go. But in many cases, you've got to make a decision. And I know the seniors right now are beginning to hear. They're going to be hearing, obviously, coming this spring. How do you make that decision? And now that you have...
You have to think of your interests. If you look into a school, and you already know what you want to go into, you got to make sure that that school has what you want and how broad is their program. And you don't want to just go to a school because it's a name. You got to make sure it has what you want, because if you just go...
How do you do that, though? You say
don't
that
just
makes some sense to me.
Yeah, you have to visit. I think probably you have to visit the schools.
Visiting is extremely
It's
important.
so important because the atmosphere of the school, and especially if you can, to stay over with people.
There's so many things. I mean, a lot of people don't know what they're doing, but if you know what you want to do, it depends. Like, I want to go into international affairs. And that's a specific thing, and certain schools have good departments and certain schools don't. So when the time came to decide, it was a big element in my decision. Like when I was deciding between Columbia and Cornell, and they were very different schools, but it ended up being that Columbia was in the city and it had an international affairs school.
How did you actually do the investigation to come up with your information?
You look at what courses they
and
give.
go to every college conference and they'll read them all. Because
there's a Barron's book that lists index to major
Plus, talk
areas of
to
study
talk
if you're that interested in
your
something.
friends that you know, and they we were at this breakfast and we were filling out little cards about so that people could get in touch with us if they wanted to go to the university or the school we go to.
Definitely.
That kind of thing, because talking to people about it, you're obviously going to get that person's biases, but you do get an idea of what it's like for the living conditions.
You have to talk to students, because you can always talk to the advisors and the faculty who's going to tell you how great the academics are. But you really want to talk to kids, get the dirt on the social life,
I've had experience that personally, as well as just an experience dealing with kids in this particular issue, that juniors and seniors, for the most part, will be able to give you a somewhat unbiased opinion, possibly, because by that time, you've come back home and probably discussed your major with other kids, maybe from other schools, where you now can have another opinion.
Well, I also have a better understanding of how my program compares to other programs because of my contacts with other friends who have been at other schools for a while. So when somebody comes to me and says, well, I'm interested in film, or I'm interested in this program, can you please talk about this? And I'll say, well, Northwestern is this way, but I have friends who go to NYU, and I have friends, or I know of this program over here, and I can compare the programs because I know about them.
Can I just make a point? I have no idea what I want to do. Okay, and I didn't at the beginning, and I still don't, and I'm still not sure exactly how I chose my school. And I was just
liberal arts school with a good environment and a lot of fun things.
Seriously, I was gonna say, even though you say there's nothing in the name and everything, investigate what people say. Basically, are good schools and
Don't
broad areas
make
that
sure
can give you
your environment though, because I have a lot of friends who are at schools. I guess I can like SUNY schools upstate and stuff, and say they love the schools and they love the people, but they hate it. It's the boonies and there are no cities.
Yeah, look at the area.
You're not stuck in like Plattsburgh or something.
Because also, if you have an idea of your major, like for me, I'm a music major. Now, Oberlin has a great rep as having a great music program. But to go out there, there's no music industry out there really. There's no recording studios. There's no really big theaters that you have here. There's no place to make contacts, because just as much as going to classes, at least in the profession that I want to go into, you have to make your contacts. You can't do that if you're in the wrong environment.
Exactly. That was considered the environment. I mean, you spend most of your time not in classes, and so you have to be happy where you go. To me, the most you're going to get. I mean, they're going to have an American history course no matter what school you go to. They're going to have an intro to economics course, probably. They're going to have an intro to sociology course. And they're all going to have 120 people, and they're all going to be big, and it's going to be boring, and etc. So what's important here is whether you're happy where you're living. Are you happy with the type of student that goes there? Are you happy with the offerings that the school gives you outside of class? Are you near a big city? For instance, the reason I went to Northwestern was because it was a good university, but it was near a big city. It's near Chicago. And I like that fact because I've lived near New York my whole life. And I think if you're not happy where you go to school, no matter how good the classes are, no matter how good the reputation is, you're not going to like it there. So you might as well go to a school where you enjoy the surroundings.
Think about what you're going to do outside of class. Yeah. If you're going to Oberlin, okay, you go to class. Then what are you going to do outside of class? Like go pick corn? I mean, I don't know.
You go to Go to Cleveland.
Go to Cleveland. All right. Well, let's pick some. There's other schools that are just near nothing. No, Oberlin's. I considered Oberlin, but at NYU or places that are near cities, you can never run out of things to do outside of class.
Yeah, but some people don't like cities.
Unless you don't like cities, in which case do something else.
Yeah, because
I think it's important to.
Nowhere.
I think it's important to reiterate what Steve said, though, that a lot of us have a specific idea of what it is we want to do. Mm-hmm. And that might have had something to do with our choice of schools. But it's important to realize that you can, if you have no idea whatsoever, there are plenty of places you can go and have a really, even at Wesleyan, if I had no idea what I wanted to do, Wesleyan would still be good for me because it's got a lot of courses and a lot of different things. And so you can take courses. And as I'm going through after first semester, for my second semester course choices, I've started making decisions about the things that I'm still interested in and want to keep up with, and the things that I really am not as interested in.
I think I'm a good example that I applied to Wesleyan and I applied to NYU. And I applied to 2 other schools that I was rejected from. And okay. I applied to Harvard, MIT. I was rejected by both of them. Okay. Now, anyway, I was accepted to Northwestern, Wesleyan, and NYU. Okay, and I chose Northwestern. Precisely because of the campus. I decided Wesleyan. I didn't like it because as a film major, it was the middle of nowhere, and I didn't like that.
Right.
Okay, and I have to be near a big city for that. I didn't choose NYU because I didn't want to feel like I was going to work every day. Because everything's a building, it's a concrete campus. I went to go to Northwestern because of the location and I'm not trying to. I'm telling you personally. I'm telling you personally.
Like GW.
Okay, and I like the grass and I like the campus, and to me that was very important. And I wanted the traditional college atmosphere.
I don't like that expression. I like the grass.
We're not in class. We're on television.
Location was the biggest reason why I chose where I wanted to go because I want to get involved in politics. Most of my friends have internships on the Hill. I have 2 friends who work for Ted Kennedy, paid internships. I'm working next semester with National Abortion Rights Action League. And anything you want to do in politics, there are so many special interest groups and so many things to do with politics that, I could be in New York and I could be involved.
She saw Nancy Reagan the other day.
Yeah, walking down the street in front of my dorm, but that's besides the point.
Unfortunately, I've got to leave, and I want to ask one more question and just ask this. And that is, now that you've chosen your school, you're there. What about roommates? And how do you? You're lucky, but
ask me.
There's a lot of kids, and think back to my roommate that you, I'm sure, had at least a little anxiety, worrying about who am I going to be.
Worried. I find out on Saturday who my roommate is, and I'm dying.
Right here.
I'm dying.
This is the thing. Let me explain something to you.
Okay.
This is the thing. First of all, it is a myth that you're required to be best friends with your roommate.
Yeah.
There's no law that says you have to be best friends with your roommate. My older brother went to school his freshman year. His roommate and him had totally different interests. They went to sleep at different times. They spoke to. They were polite to each other in the room, and when they weren't there, they did other things. They were polite to each other. There are occasions where I think roommates get together and they absolutely can't even be polite to each other. But also roommates are not written in stone.
One thing that, as an outgrowth of what you're saying, I've heard a lot of kids over the years of doing this kind of work that they may be 2 friends from high school, and you might be thinking what I'm now going to say, that are going to the same school.
Don't do it.
Tell them that.
Because my boyfriend went to NYU and lived with his best friend from high school in freshman year. They got into a physical fight, beat each other up, and didn't speak to each other for a year because they were totally different people and only speak to each other now after graduating.
If you go to school with your best friend, you're going to be inclined not to go out and meet other people.
That's
also.
a good point.
Well, one of my best friends does go to BU, and she's in my dorm. in another tower. I can't explain. Anyway, she asked me if I wanted to room together. I said no way. And it's good because I've met a lot of other people, and now I have all my friends on my floor and all my friends on her floor, and we can still go out for dinner or hang out or go to the same parties or go wherever. But we have our other friends.
Definitely contact them because you'll be surprised. It'll be a shock. You have to. You have to like. They send you the name and the address.
Did they ask you, as in many college situations, they'll send you a questionnaire?
Yeah.
Smoking, non-smoking.
Yeah, but still, they don't always. They don't always give you what you want.
There's no way to match. You can't match people together. It's just not possible. If you get a 20-question test, or if you get a 3-question smoking, non-smoking, morning, night person, I mean, no matter what.
What it comes down to is if you can be really. I'm really close to my roommate. I mean, he's from Beverly Hills and all this and all this and all this, and I was so nervous that he was going to be this really, really rich, disgusting person, and he's not at all. And he's just, he's just a really cool fellow, and we have a great time together, and we hang out and we talk. But that's not, I have friends whose roommates
I wasn't really good friends with at all. And I tended, because I didn't know anybody, to cling to these people at very first. And then within about 4 weeks into the semester, I took a road trip with this guy up to Michigan because I had about 11 friends, good friends, who went to Michigan. And after that great trip, I came back and we didn't start doing anything together. And I think it was because at first you're very nervous. You don't have that many friends. You feel like other people have all these friends and you're just isolated here and you don't have any friends. But when I went to Michigan, I realized that I still had friends that existed from the past, and I had that confidence now. And then it let me go and have the freedom to go and try to find new people. At first, it's difficult, but you just have to have the confidence that your old friends, if they were really good friends, will still exist. And even 3 years down the road, I still have friends from Mamaroneck that I see, and I see them now when they get home. And it just takes a little bit of time. You have to be open. You have to be very open to meet new people.
Yeah, if you come and you expect the same relationships with the people you've known since 3rd grade. You've got all the people who know you, and it doesn't happen. But you miss your friends. You miss them, and you miss the close relationships, and it doesn't happen immediately. But now, you're starting to form the close relationships.
One last question, and the question is this: would you recommend, if a kid has an option, to live either off campus or on campus in a dorm? I'm talking about on campus as a freshman. What would you say?
Don't, because I had a chance. I could have lived off campus first semester freshman year, and that's why I stayed home, because I did not want to do it. Because I just couldn't picture myself in an apartment, because then you really are making it like twice as hard on yourself to meet people.
The housing that I was assigned is where I live is campus housing, campus-owned housing, but it's off campus.
Is it mostly freshmen?
And it's all freshmen. It's a freshman house, which is. I really don't think there is any school which allows freshmen to live off campus.
No, yes, my school you can.
Few, but it makes it. I didn't want you in a big city.
It makes it twice as hard, because even now, like as a commuting student to a local school, I only have maybe 5 good friends, because the place from what I understand, what all my friends tell me when I complain and I say I don't know anyone, is that the place that you meet everybody is the dorm. That's where everything starts, and if you don't live there, forget it.
Northeastern that are commuting are now the 2nd semester are going to be living on campus because they just don't know. They have to be home at night. They have to take the train home or drive home. So at night is when everybody usually gets together, and they're never around for it. So now they're going to be living on campus.
Right.
Okay, listen, we have to end shortly, so what I'd like each person to do is to each of you to give one piece of advice now to prospective college seekers who are now high school seniors, and we'll start with you, Michael.
Start with me.
One piece of advice.
If you want to go into music,
Good NYU.
Wait a second.
And no,
Look at my album.
just
7 years, Mike.
What? No, just it's an important decision. Basically, if you can always change your school, but it's really, as far as living on campus, I think that's the most important thing. I think to go to a school, you make the right decision. You got to be there, because outside of classes is where most of it happens, I think.
Thank you. Laurie?
My pleasure.
Okay, I had to learn something the hard way, and it was very painful. And that was that even though in my high school I was a good student, and I did a lot of things, and I had a good average, and I did well in my SATs, that there were about 10,000 other people applying to the same school as I was who are almost exactly the same as me. And that out of those 10,000 people, maybe 2,000 were going to get a spot in the school. And that was a really difficult thing to learn, that I only got rejected by 2 schools. I applied to 6 schools, I got rejected by 2, waitlisted at 3, which is the worst thing ever put on the face of this earth, is waitlisting. And it was very hard to realize that why I didn't get that spot. And the one thing that I would say is to try, I wouldn't say apply realistically, because I think I did apply realistically. I got waitlisted, I was close to getting in. But to just expect to be disappointed. And I didn't expect the disappointment, and that's why it was a very painful lesson.
Seth?
Isn't it?
I'm gonna cry though. No.
I did cry a lot.
Well-
I cried a lot.
My piece of advice is to, well, just to keep everything that you do in like perspective, because don't get, oh my God, I don't have any parents, I can do anything I damn please. If you go too far in that direction, I'm serious, you can, but if you go too far in that direction, you're gonna screw up. It's like, I gotta study all the time, That doesn't work either. So you gotta find a balance between your studying, your partying, and all that, and you just have to keep everything in perspective and realize that, there are important things.
This is like filibustering at the Senate here. Hally?
Look at your environment. I think that's the one thing that makes me happiest, is my environment. And the people that go to the school is very important. I wound up at a very Jappy school, but I can handle it because I've met my friends who aren't Jappy.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're
No, you haven't. This isn't.
You don't know Jappy.
Liz, please.
Just like for the seniors now, take it easy, because like at this point now we all look back and go, remember applications? What a joke, Remember the interviews, and it's all going to be over, and you're going to be in, and you're going to be happy, and get good proof. That's it.
Yeah.
I know. That's why. You don't want to drink. You just want to go dancing, and you can't get in if you.
Especially in the city. But the other thing is, don't sit there and don't the whole applications process seems so terrible when you're doing it, and you look back and you laugh because
You don't.
Yes,
It was terrible.
but you have to get it in perspective. Don't pick one school and say I've got to go there, because I had a first choice and I didn't get in, and now Columbia is my first choice. I'm happy there, and you're bound apply to schools that you think you're going to be happy at, and you're bound to be happy.
Very good. Melissa? Very good.
When you apply to a school, make sure it's one that you really want to go to, not one that your mom or your dad or your grandfather or your best friend wants you to go to. It's got to be your decision. Sure, take everybody's comments and take them all into consideration, but don't just go because it's somebody whose steps you want to follow, and it's got to be totally your decision.
John?
This is a golden opportunity to change yourself. You have a certain reputation, you have a certain way that people think of you in high school. People won't think of you that way when you get to college. And if you want to create a certain image for yourself, if you want to be somebody that you haven't been in the past, there's a perfect opportunity for you to change yourself without people accusing you of being wishy-washy.
Very good. Nice comment. Stephen?
Okay, I think you should think about why or if you want to go to college in the first place. And think about what you want to do with the rest of your life at this point, because that's something that I don't think I did enough.
Well, thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a very happy holiday, and I hope your grades and your finals, if you've taken them or if you haven't taken them, are going to be tip-top. Thanks a lot.
Keep that on perspective.